Y'all already know what's going on in this video. You read the title. I think Midnight Suns is one of the most underrated games of all time. And I'm like, shit, I want to make some videos. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to try to make a non-sweaty guide to all the characters in the game. So if you're trying to learn a bit about the characters, but you're not trying to sweat your nuts off to some casual shit, this is the place to go. So here's the thing. We're going to go through every character. And of course, we're going to start off with the main character, Hunter. Now, the thing about Hunter is that you have 3 times as many cards on Hunter as you do any other character, right? Because there's 3 main versions. You have neutral, light, dark, or as they're known, light, power, dark. Now, essentially, light's your IE support class, dark is your DPS class, and power is the closest you can get to tank. And we'll discuss that right now. So, and it's both a tanky build and a decent DPS build in terms of non-situational damage. So what I mean by that is a lot of Dark Hunter cards are some shit where it's like, do more damage to a stunned enemy. Do a fuck ton of damage, but your grandma's house blows up. Shit like that. There's like a trade-off. Not with power. Power is just straight up, boom, you in there. So let's get started. We're going to start going over every card. Now, remember, you can only fit 8 cards into your deck. Me, personally, I don't like to stack. If you're running like optimal and you're like, oh, I cared about you, I need to run duplicates in my deck. Yeah, you can. I just like running 8 unique cards because I feel like it makes the game more interesting, you know, and more random, and I kind of like that. So we're gonna start off with commons, rares, purples, and then legendaries. All right. So your first card is Hunter on power is Charge. Now I'll keep it real with you boys. This is a stinky ass card. What it does no damage. It's a forceful knockback, and it has a 25% chance of stun. Here's the thing. A forceful knockback is not bad. It grants you 1 heroism too. But Slash is just charged with damage. Now, you might say, Wyatt! The 25% stun. On some builds, maybe the 25% stun could be good. So, like, say you get a mod on it, and you get the stun rate up to like 35%, and you're running like a Storm stun build, Storm Hulk Hunter stun build, maybe it could be good. But me personally, I leave this out of my deck. Well, it's all up to you. Second card, we're going to Fortify. Fortify is what I'm talking about when Power Hunter has a decent bit of tankiness. So what this card does, it gains you 2 counter, and 40% of your health is added as block. It gives you +2 heroism. Now, depending on the difficulty you play, 40% of your health is either, as Hunter, 1 single hit, or 2 hits, or even like 3 hits. And counter is nasty on it, and it's just nice for building heroism. So what I mean that Hunter can tank, she doesn't get any taunts, but she can just take a fuck ton of damage because you're going to be high level because you're playing the main character, and she kind of just base has a nasty amount of HP. You know what I mean? So this is a good card. I run this all the time. Goated, great. Next one, Quick Slash. Quick Slash is your go-to quick. It does 50% of your offense damage. So if you look in the stats, it has a number called offense. So it's 50% of that. It has knockback and quick on it, +1 heroism. This is a great quick card. You might ask, what's the difference between the quick cards? So some of them have taunt on them. Some of them have chains. This is a good quick card, especially if you get a nice mod on it. So one of the main things is that it does damage and it knocks back. So what you can do is that you can hit a big enemy with him, get free damage, and knock him into a minion, and you still get the quick back. And it's really good if you get something like bleed on it, because you can apply bleed with it to like a big enemy and then still get your quick refund. Good card. Always run this. I feel like this is your go-to quick on power, and honestly, probably just your go-to quick on Hunter. It's really good. Quick's needed in every build, I feel like, personally. Good card. Number 4, we got Slash. Remember, boys, earlier when I was talking about Charge? Okay, so this is just Charge, essentially. But it does damage. It deals 50% of your offense. So it does as much damage as Quick Slash with a forceful knockback +1 heroism. This is just not really much to explain here. Knock back someone into a wall, into an environmental something. It does. It's your go-to DPS. No bullshit, no requirements, just boom, bang, bop, and you're done. Now, on the flip side, we got some shit that is rather complicated, I'd say. Deadly Ground. Now, this is a skill that summons one light and dark explosive and a third random one, and it gives you 2 heroism. So, what the explosive is that it's an environmental attack, and the I said there's light and dark. The light one, if you knock an enemy into it, they'll become stunned, and the dark one, it applies 2 vulnerable to them. So this requires a bit of work, but it can work well on Hunter because we've just established he has slash and quick slash and charge, which all have knockback. And you have push later on in the game, not even later on, very early. So basically, it's a stun on command to a degree because you don't know where the explosive is going to go. There's also nice combos you can do with it. So if you have Scarlet Witch's detonate, I believe, stacks with it. Spider-Man works well with it because they are environmental attacks, so you can just blow the fuck up. They do an AoE damage, It just stuns the person that's been hit in the center. So if you push someone into it, they get stunned. Just blowing it up won't hit the stun. But this is a good card, but you need a bit of finesse, a bit of swagger to get on with it. So that's good. Next card, Fury. Now, this is where we start doing damage numbers. What Fury does, it does 200% of your offense number. It applies 1 vulnerable, 2 marked, it costs 2 heroism, and it's final. This is the first thing we've heard final. So what final is that if you use a final card on that character, they can no longer take any actions. They can't move, they can't play a card, they can't play a free card, they ain't doing shit, can't even use an item. So you might be like, well, why is there marked on it if it's final? It's because you gotta do synergy with your teammates. Me personally, I just use this as a DPS a lot of time. Like I know it does vulnerable, I know it does marked, but doing 200% offense to a single target for 2 heroism is kind of a steal. But even then, the potential is so great. So you can, if you're playing on, say, like Heroic 3 or something like that, you can hit a boss with this. You can hit Venom with this, for example, apply vulnerable and marked, and then just blast them with something. Blast them with fucking Iron Man or Deadpool or something, It's good. Next, we got Guarding Strike. Guarding Strike is another item, which I think supports the fact that Power Hunter is kind of a bit tanky. So what this does is that it deals 150% offense, 1 heroism, right? But the passive is that for every turn it's in your hand, you get 15% of your health back as a block. On higher difficulties, when you are getting 2-shotted or 3-shotted if you're a tank and you're using concealed and all that shit to help you, not that good. On lower difficulties, though, even like Ultimate 1, this card fucks. You are getting so much self-sustain. It is ridiculous. And then in a pinch, you can do 150 offense if you really need it. Like if someone's like, oh, this person needs to die this turn or my life is over, bop him. Bop it is that easy. It's a good one. Then we go to Patience. Patience costs 6 heroism and does 500% of your offense damage. That's a lot. Just a wee bit of damage. Tiny bit. Little tiny bit. This is the most damaging thing in the game, single target, besides, I believe, Penance Stare and Deadpool's ult. This isn't the ult, mind you. This is a purple. Now, here's the twist. Every second it's in your hand, the cooldown goes down by 1. It goes to 5. It goes to 4. It goes to 3. But it does have exhaust on it. But we're going to get into this later. Callers on Hunters. You get 2 passes. One of the callers that she has is that her cards don't exhaust. So what you can do is that you can get this card down to 5, to 3. 2 is optimal. Get it down to 2. And now you have something that does 500% damage for 2 heroism that's you can use turn after turn after turn after turn. This will one-shot almost everything in the game unless you're playing on very hardest difficulties. It's ridiculous. Now, it requires a lot of setup. So it is going to suck because it takes up room in your slot. So what I mean is that sometimes there's just, you can only have so many cards in your hand. So let's say a hero combo, right? A hero combo doesn't really do that much damage. It costs 4 heroism. It's very expensive. and it's pissing you off because it's just fucking sitting there in your deck. You can't fucking get rid of it. And you only get 2 redraws. This can suffer from that. But if you work around it, you know what you're doing. Say you're running Nico. Nico has an ability called, I think it's Empower, where the heroism of every card in your hand is reduced to 0 this turn. Nutty. You shit on people. And this can crit, too. Speaking of crit, onto our next card, Wrath. What Wrath does is that it gives all your hunter cards critical in your hand. And then for the next 2 turns, all of the hunter cards you draw are also critical. And it's for free. Plus 0 heroism, of course, because it's free. So, plus, having it affect hunter cards for 2 turns basically makes it so if you have this card in your deck, all of your hunter cards are critical. Critical is decent. It's not great. So what you can do is that in the lab, if you have the Morbius DLC, there's a upgrade you can do where essentially once per day you can do training. And what this does is that it lowers 1 stat of your character but raises another greatly. So it will be like you lose willpower, but you gain resilience. So what you can do is that you can literally set your crit chance low because you don't need it. And you can just buff up that crit damage and boom, you can be hitting like, I think 40% crits is like the standard. It also works if you have anything that requires card plays. So for example, as we get into callers later on, there's a caller on Hunter where it's every 3 cards you play, you can draw 2 more cards. This is very good of that because it's a free play. Now keep in mind free cards that if you're facing enemies with Frenzy, not optimal. But I kind of put this card in my deck just for the sake of just having something free to play. You know, the effect's not even that crazy, but it's being able to move the turn along. Say someone's stunned for 4 turns. Well, you don't get 4 turns during a turn. Someone's stunned for 4 actions. Well, now you can because it's free. Yeah. So now finally we're on to our last ultimate, Bladestorm. I think this is genuinely the best ultimate that Hunter has, considering she has 3. So what it does is that you deal 100% of your offense in an AoE, and it does forceful knockback. And then for every KO, you draw a card. Minus 4 heroism. This is, in my opinion, probably the best AoE damage in the game. Because it's no bullshit. So say something like Dark Annihilation, which is her dark ult. What that does is that it does a bit of damage if you have 1 heroism, a bit more if you have 2, and then more and more and more. So if you want it to be optimal, you got to go 10 heroism. I generally feel like Bladestorm, I'm not sure of this, at 4 heroism does way more than Annihilation. And that's top of a million other things you can do with Bladestorm. You can knock people off the map. You can knock people in the stuns. You can knock enemies into your allies so you get card draw. I think this is Hunter's best ult by a million miles. And also, it looks fresh, like low key. So this is my optimal personally. Is that I love Patience. Patience is a bit finicky though. So I leave Patience out of my deck. Requires a lot of setup, and there's about a million. Oh, my cat's in the background. Say hi to Gordon. There's a lot of other ways I can do damage. And then obviously I leave Charge out because Charge is just a bad card. I'm not saying you can't use it. If there are any Charge aficionados out there, let me know. But not my thing. So that's the basics. So I guess we're done. But wait, there's more. Now, every character has a passive once you get their loyalty high enough. But Hunter has a passive, and she has her Caller, which is a second passive. So we're going to go over the callers first. And you could choose which one you want. So there's multiple callers. So a lot of the callers are, say, some shit like, if you play 5 dark cards, you do this. So I'm only going over the callers that are going to affect playing power cards. So our first one is going to be Balanced Caller. This is the optimal go-to one, in my opinion. So if you play 3 power cards, you get a card that's for free, and that card allows you to draw 2 cards. Like I said, this works really well with Wrath because it's free, so you can build that up. You got Quick Slash on top of it, and it just gives you a deviant amount of card draw. You can always look for what you want. In fact, I think sometimes it gives you too much card draw where you're over flooding your hand because you've got too much fucking shit stored in there. You know what I mean? But balanced color is the go-to. Now, I will go over the second option that you do have, but honestly, this is just basically it stays on. It's best in slot. We have Unity Color. Play one light card, dark card, and power card, and you gain one fast. I'm really not a fan of this card. Number one, I don't like mixing and matching. I want to stay light, dark, or power. I think it fits the aesthetic more. I think it's cooler. I think it's less min-maxy and enjoyable to play into a bid. And fast is just not a very great buff. My issue with fast is that it lowers the cost of heroism of a card, right? But typically speaking, right, you don't want to spend your whole turn popping heroism. And the cards that give you fast take a turn. So for example, say you want a Blade Storm, and then like, let's just say you Blade Storm again, even though you can't, right? Unless you did some tomfoolery. It costs 8 heroism to Blade Storm twice, and you still have a turn left to do other stuff. Or it could cost you 6 heroism, but now your turn's completely over. I don't think getting 2 heroism for a turn is a good trade. You might say, well, what about skills? Skills give you 2 heroism, right? But they give you other shit because the devs realize that wasting a whole turn for 2 heroism is a fucking dog water trade. Like, why would you do that? I'm not a big fan of fast, but that's the callers. And then we have our passive. So unlike every other character in the game, Hunter gets as many passes as you want. She can like trade, swap them out, all that shit. So we're going to go over the ones that I think work well. And we'll start with the first one. Ancestors Guidance. This is one I'm talking about earlier. Hunter abilities do not exhaust. So that includes on power, I think it's just patience is the only thing that exhausts. But like I said, get patience cost down to 2 and start spamming it. You now have the most damaging attack on the game, and it's not running out. You're one-shotting people for 2 a turn. However, you have to be in a mission that takes a while, because by the time 4 turns have passed, most of your enemies should be dead already. But you can cheese certain fights with this. If you know a story mode's coming up where there's like big waves of enemies that keep on coming, keep on going, this absolutely deletes. Good. Not what I run, but good for certain builds. Now I got Fully Charged, the first one you get. Weirdly enough, the first one you get is somewhat broken. So what happens is that Hunter gains 1 resist or 1 heroism at the start of each turn. 1 heroism at the start of each turn is good. Doctor Strange's passive is literally just to gain heroism, but it's only 30%. This is confirmed. But the real thing is resist. Remember how I said she's kind of tanky? Well, imagine this. Imagine getting resist, popping counter with fortify, and getting your guarding strike. You now have 55% of your HP as shields and resist. That is ridiculous. I got something in my nose, by the way. Anyways, it's quite frankly ridiculous. You can just take so much aggro and be so ridiculously OP. It's not even fun. You just take hit after hit after hit. And I honestly leave it on the whole game. Resist is ridiculous. What resist does, if y'all don't know, is that you just ignore damage, but then the stat goes away. So if you have 3 resist stacks, you can take 3 hits, and then it goes away, right? But it doesn't work against bosses. It's the one downside. But what you can do is that you can intentionally aggro people, because we've talked about how Hunter doesn't have a taunt. But to certain enemies, you don't need taunt. So a lot of enemies are, if you attack this enemy, they taunt on you automatically. If you attack their boss, they taunt on you automatically. Crossbones targets the lowest HP person. That's how you tank as Hunter. So, best in slot, in my opinion. Next, we got Master of the Hunt. This does is it reduces all your collar thresholds by 1, and the hunter is immune to all negative effects. So being able to get your balanced collar on with 2 cards is decent, because that means you can just quick slash and then wrath and get it. Not bad. It's not bad. Pretty epic. I'd say pretty epic. But the resistance to negative effects is fucking insane. Oh, you're getting bled out? Corruption? Don't care. Ratio, L, gatekeep. Now, this is kind of... Later on in the game, you can use your push to cleanse yourself of the negative effects. So it kind of falls off a bit. But even then, you can use that movement for your allies and then just not have to worry about getting negative effects ever. And this also adds to your tankiness. Like I said, you can tank people and not even get corrupted by dogs or nothing. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. So next one is heightened senses. This one's not great for power, but I figured I'd just put it in. Charlie gains 1 resist each turn. Hunter and Charlie's attacks have a higher chance to be critical. Now, in the Light Hunter, your ult is to summon Charlie. And Charlie getting 1 resist every turn confirmed, rather than 50-50 like the previous, is pretty good. You can just take aggro for the 3 turns he's there and just start deleting. But the only thing you get out of this if you're using power is having all your cards have a higher chance to be critical. Which, maybe you could consider this if you're going for a lot of DPS and you're not running Wrath, which why wouldn't you if you're going for DPS? But if not, there is a niche for this. A small niche. Next one, we have Salem's Savior. When Hunter KOs 1 or more villain with an ability, there's a 50% chance to draw a card. This is ass. This is kind of turbo ass. It should be 100%. Now, what this is meant for, I believe, is for the trials, because it's always Hunter and Charlie versus the Lilin. It can find some uses if you know you're going to a Lilin mission with Hunter. But at that point, why not just run the collar that gives you card draw? You have so many other ways to get card draw that I really just don't see giving up something as good as like getting 1 resist per turn over this. Next one, we have Shadow Stalker. Once per turn, you can redraw a Heroic Hunter card and Hunter will go invisible. Once, though. On one hand, I do not like a once per turn thing, but Concealed is the best condition in the game. You can aggro the entire team, the boss, every enemy, and then go Concealed and leave. However, she doesn't have a dedicated taunt. This would be a lot better on someone like Wolverine, where with your chain taunts, you could chain everyone in the game and then disappear, but you can't. But it's still useful, I'd say. It has definitely come in clutch before. So, I give it an A rating, you know what I mean? Next, we got Symbiote Shell. When Hunter plays a card, there's a 10% chance to generate a new card, which is Symbiote Bind. And Symbiote Bind costs 1 heroism, and it applies Bind to the target. This is bad, in my opinion. It is interesting to get a new ability. It's not really new, because it's on Venom. Like, Venom has the ability for 2 heroism instead of 1. But a 10% chance every time you play a card is so low. And you think the reward would be Symbiote Bind just for free, but it's not. If Symbiote Bind was for free, I would genuinely think this would be a decent card and rather interesting. I do think it's a fun card. I'm also not a big fan of Bind, because I'd rather not delay the character a turn. I'd just fucking kill him. You know what I mean? Not my thing. And now we have the final one. Vengeance. Enemies who attack Hunter have a 25% chance to gain 1 marked. This one is both terrible and great. Like I said, power Hunter is very tanky. Having someone attack you and them getting marked on the off turn is insane. Marked is already an insane effect. But having a marked go off on your turn so you don't have to waste one of your card turns to use it is insane. I mean, on the enemy's turn. However, one of the reasons why Hunter is so tanky is because of the collar we went over earlier. The passive, I mean, fully charged, which gives you resist. So you can't have this and Vengeance at the same time. So essentially, Hunter gets less tanky, but her counters get better. if you run full Fortify and Guarding Strike and you're running a Captain America who can buff you, you can pop counter on your turn, get some nice buffs, and start like doing 200 damage ripostes and then marking people if you get lucky. A decent card. So yeah, that's it. Hunter, like I said, Power Hunter is very versatile. You got a lot of support roles with the card draw. You're decently tanky, and you just do unproblematic DPS on any circumstance. See, Oppen. How many milkers is Oppen? So I don't know. My personal, I would actually put this as the second best type of hunter. I would put light over this, and then I'll put dark in last. We'll talk about that next time when I talk about light and dark hunter. Thank you. That's it.